I'm down here in Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. I'm actually on the old military base of Fort Oglethorpe. And I don't remember how to do a talk chat, live chat, live chat. We'll see if it populates on the screen. I don't remember how I see the chat. Maybe it'll show up here in a second. We'll see. But I figured I'd come to you guys live today and chat with you for a little while. Let me see if I can get the camera positioned right. If you've seen how precarious all the camera positioning was, you'd understand my reservation with it. But today I was going to chat with you about, like, I guess you would call it more lifestyle photography. Let me know, send me a chat message. I want to see if it populates on the screen here, or if I've got to come up with a new chat window somehow that I ain't figured out because the app is updated. Ah, good morning, Hassan. So the chat works. All right, thank you. Jacob Jurg, hi. Greetings from the Netherlands. Yeah, I got a live stream in early enough today. It's not midnight for you guys. The where I'm located is a old military base from way back when. Seriously, it was an active World War II military base. And then somewhere shortly after World War II, they shut down the military base portion of it. And I guess now it's just part of the city. And maybe they sold the houses, but they're all, where I'm at was officer quarters. And they're like duplexes built, and they're cookie cutter houses all around this parade field that I'm in. Look, I'll give y'all, see this? Houses, like right here's one, here's one, here's one. They're all the same. They have this double porch with this symmetrical center section. Like, seriously, you see that one, you see how it's made. And then if I spin around to this one, you can see the exact same design. Maybe even, can't, no, this one, the brick house was built sooner, but you can see they're like carbon copies of one another. It's kind of interesting. But let me set this back down now. There we go. But it's a neat place. I'm gonna do a photo walk here pretty soon. Actually, now that the weather's nice, I'll do one sooner rather than later. It's got a sidewalk, completely wraps it, so it's kind of neat. It'll be easy to do a photo walk. But to get back on subject here, the subject today was going to be street photography / travel photography, but it kind of occurred to me that it's really more lifestyle photography, and it's more capturing the world around you instead of capturing, in Cartier-Bresson's words, the decisive moment. You're just trying to record the world around you so that you can either share it with friends or so you can just save it for posterity. And like, I do a lot of that. I photograph the world around me, for lack of a better term, to just kind of take a snapshot of time here and kind of document. Now, I do go to Chattanooga a good bit and walk the downtown area as a street photography kind of thing. That's almost therapy for me, to kind of like detach from the struggles of, it's my recreation, if that makes sense. Hassan says, David, since my kids are out for the summer, we have to get together for a photo walk. I'm not too far from here in Enterprise. I can drive up to Georgia. Maybe we should like meet halfway and pick a place that looks interesting. Maybe Birmingham, because that's about halfway between me and you, if I'm right. Birmingham's a pretty interesting city, There's not too many run and gun battles down there. But we could do something. We should be able to go to Birmingham and link up and do something fun. If y'all haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up. I would like as many of them as I can get. But what I've been doing here lately is I've been shooting with a vintage lens again. You know how I am in vintage glass. I've got the 28 millimeter, and this is the Sahi optical Tacomer. And if you've been on the Georgia Photographer Gathering Facebook group, you've noticed where we all went. Yeah, Hassan says, yeah, not too many. we linked up at the Chattanooga market last Sunday and I did some pseudo street photography. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see I posted some photos of it. And we both had our 28 millimeters on our cameras. We did a photo together of it, and one of the guys got a picture. I think it was Ray, and stuck it on his wall. But they're identical lenses. But yeah, we was learning to use 28 millimeters indoors, and it worked really well. The 28 is like a real good up close and personal focal length for me, to where the 50 mil, you need a little more breathing room to be able to get the 50 mil to deploy properly. At the ranges this lens really shines at, this is a portrait lens, you know, almost a headshot lens. I really want to get the SL28 now. This one here is wonderful, but it lacks about a stop and a half of light that the SL would bring to the table. And that would be handy in some instances. Like the Chattanooga market's pretty dim since it's inside that old structure. There's places where there's plenty of light spill in, but there's a lot of places where I was running 3200 ISO for the whole day while I was inside, just because the shutter speeds were so high or slow, that everything was motion blurred. You know, it was just crazy. Ray's in. How you doing, Ray? We need to do a photo walk with our biggest zoom lenses. Let's see. If I put that 500 on my Z50, that's like a field of view of 750 millimeters. So, do you still have a crop sensor, Nickor? Or did you get rid of all of them and you're just now full frame only? I do have a F-mount teleconverter we can put on yours. That would get you like about the same field of view. It'd be 700 millimeters. We're going to look so silly trying to do street photography with 500 millimeter lenses. Z9 and Z6 too. All right. Yeah. That's we can make it happen. We need to line that up. We kind of probably need to do it early in the day or late in the day, just because they're going to be heavy and we'll be hot. We ain't going to want to carry them big heavy lenses around while it's hot. Let me get up here a little closer to the camera. But yeah, I have found that I've really started to embrace the 28 millimeter. It's actually, I done got something on it. I got dirt on it. It's starting to really grow on me, and I'm enjoying the field of view more the more I shoot with it. This is like I use this term in the loosest possible way. This is my discount Q2, because Q3 is a flip out lens. They finally put a flip out lens on a Leica camera. I don't even know what the price is on that new Q3, but it's going to be ludicrous because they've added a flip out lens screen. But this is basically a Q2 with stabilization. I don't think the Qs have image stabilization. I don't remember. I know they have autofocus, which this doesn't have in this configuration, but you can manual focus the Qs as well. So, but yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Two cool cameras dropped this week, and Canon released a little camera. So everybody's thrown some cameras on the market this last few weeks. You got the Z8, it's going to be a winner. I'm pretty sure Nikon has figured out the camera market. I'm going to jump tracks, talk about Nikon for a few minutes. Nikon's figured out the camera market, y'all. Let me get this angle right. Here we go. In that, I just realized I've done this whole live stream in vertical. Oh, well. Sometimes you just figure it out late. But sorry about that. It just occurred to me. But Nikon is taking their time about releasing cameras, and they're doing it in such a way as to make it have a greater impact on the market than just throwing models out as fast as possible. And I think with the way they're releasing the cameras now, with significant periods of time between model launches, they're basically bringing back the interest that they used to have when new models would come out. You know, for a while there was a new one every year, and it got to the point where people expected a new release. And before that, you would have a camera model that would propagate for several years before an updated one would come out, and there would be a significant change in design. I mean, for like from 1970 to like 1990, there was only 4 or 5 Nikon SLR cameras that hit the market that were significant. You know, it wasn't many. And then by like 2015, there was one a year. You know, they come out all the time. So it's interesting to see that. Let's see what Hassan says. Jacob says, try the 28 f1.4 from 7 Artisans, M mount. Great lens and affordable. Okay, I'll look at it. Because I got the M adapter L, so I can put the M lenses on my SL. Hassan says, I love the Lumix 20-60. Despite the variable aperture, the S5 II stabilization and ISO ability makes this a crazy underrated lens. When we meet, I'll let you borrow it, plus some Sigmas. Ooh. Yeah, by the way, Hassan has the Panasonic Lumix S, which one? S5 Mark II. Yeah, he says it right there. And that camera basically is like the sister to my SL2 here. They're basically the same architecture internally. If I had to guess, the firmware and maybe the layout on the external is about all that's really different. The guts of the cameras are probably identical. It would shock me greatly if like the microprocessor and engine and all that were really all that different. Because it's common knowledge that Panasonic has been working with Leica for ages. But yeah, that's gonna be cool. We'll put this lens on yours. This is the 50 millimeter Summicron L mount. We'll see how it performs on a Lumix body. I'm curious to see how it runs on it. That's a nice clean Hemi. Dodge Challenger just went around the corner here. Says, it's cool, David. A newish look. I don't mind vertical. It gives a more personal feel to the vlog. Okay. Well, I just normally try to do everything landscape to keep it consistent. And I just realized that I had the phone stood up the whole time and it didn't even occur to me. But yeah, I'm streaming today with my iPhone. This is the first time I've streamed on this new iPhone. And the software's had a bunch of updates, so you know there's differences, but it's working. Let's see here. Trying to make sure I don't lose. I can. It actually kind of works because I can see myself for framing, and I can read the stream through the bifocals pretty good. But if you're a street photographer and you're a little sheepish, things I've learned over the last couple of years, if you're a street photographer or you're wanting to delve into street photography, you don't want to look like a creepo with a telephoto lens shooting across the street. You know how people say that makes people look suspicious or what have you. Get the 50. Run a 50 millimeter field of view. Now, if you're on a crop sensor, that'd be a 35, roughly. It'll get you close enough. And by doing that, that pushes everybody back basically about 2 or 3 more feet. It gets you a little more personal space, so you don't feel like you're invading people's personal space as much. That's the beauty. If you want to compose like, and not do portraits per se, but do more like environmental photos, the 50 is going to be your way to go to start with. It gets you kind of used to being out in public and taking public photos of public things. And you know, like I said, I would really start with doing more environmental stuff just to kind of get yourself used to photographing strangers. And once you kind of get in the zone or in the mode or get comfortable with photographing like people walking their dog, or you know, two people talking on a street corner while smoking a cigarette or something like that, and you know, and you start wanting to like make the story more about the people and less about the people in an environment, then you start moving closer to them. And there comes a point when the 50 is just going to be too close. It's like, you know, you're 6 to 10 feet away and you're basically making portraits. You know, so that's when the 28 starts to shine. And a lot of guys and gals will graduate kind of to the 35 millimeter field of view. And for them, you know, that's like a 24 on crop sensor. You know, the field of view is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about actual millimeters. We're just talking about that kind of field of view with your camera. And, you know, if you're shooting like on the little Olympus cameras with that micro four thirds, it's whatever the field of view is divided by 2, because their sensors are even smaller. So you would have to have like what, a 17. It's you know, you figure it out on your own, but it's not complicated math. You kind of learn. There's like 3 numbers, you know. 28, 35, and 50 is kind of the street photography magic normally. Now, when me and Ray go out, we're going to do 500. That's the way it works. But yeah, I would recommend you start with 50. I really would, because it's going to let you be a little bit, it builds you in a little bit of a buffer for, you know, that less confrontational kind of photography. Because once you get to 28 on full frame, you got to get pretty close to fill the frame with the subject. You know, if you want people to be the full photo, you got to be, I matter of fact, set my hyperfocal distance to 4 feet or 6 feet, 5. About 5 feet. That way, everything from 4 feet to about 10 feet was in focus. And, you know, and I could just snap photos. It worked out. And at the market, I actually backed it down, I think, to 5 or 4, and that pushed it from like 3 to 7 or 8 feet, because people are in real tight quarters. And I could literally just hold the camera over my head and take a frame, or I could just compose someone and take a snapshot, and they'd be in relative focus. And it would go, and it didn't slow the process down to the point that it annoyed people. You know, if I asked them, can I grab a quick photo? I could just frame them up and fire the frame and tell them thank you, and you could move on. It was a lot less time invasive, I guess is the right language there. But Ken made it. How you doing, Ken? Yeah, we're SL2ing today with the 28 and the 50 millimeter SL. I was just talking about the Q3 and how this is my, and like I said, I use this term in the loosest possible way, my discount Q2. Because it's got a 28 millimeter lens on it. But, you know, we understand why I said that. So, let's see here. Hassan says, Fujifilm, Nikon, Canon, and Leica just dropped new cameras. I didn't know Fuji come out with one. That's my bad. I knew that Canon came out with a small camera, like the R100 or something like that. Looks like it's kind of a competitor to that Z30 is what it reminds me of. I don't know, because I have done zero research, but that's what it kind of looked like. Hassan says, not to mention the new Lumix S5 II series cameras. I think Leica will introduce a new SL this year also, if not early next year. I'll just go ahead and speculate on the S series, SL series. They'll be gone in a second. There's a street literally 20 feet that way, right behind the camera. There's the street that runs down through here with all those houses on it. It's just right behind it. I'm on a big elevated, what do they call these little rotundas? gazebo. And it's just in a public park area. But yeah, if they come out with a new, like an SL3, it'll be next year. They're slow to launch cameras. You know, they do that deliberately to maximize, because they're trying to recover their engineering cost and design and manufacture setup. So they want to sell cameras long enough to recover that, plus make them some profit, because they're a for-profit business and they want to earn, they want to earn profit. But, it takes them several years. So the SL2S came out just a year or two ago. It wasn't long, and they'll ride that wave another year at least. If I had to speculate, it'll be at least one more year. So yeah, your early next year prediction's probably right on that one. Fuji XS, I did see that. I had forgotten about it. Completely forgot about that. Yeah, I was thinking about the XT2? Didn't it come out not long ago? No, not XT. What's that? What's their video-centric camera? I don't even remember now. I had an XT3. The XT5 came out, and it's a great machine, but everybody doesn't like it. They say they like the XT4 better for some reason. But I think it's because the tilt screen, or is it the XT4 was the one that they changed the screen on, and they went back to it on the XT5. I think that's what happened. The XT5, they improved it. The XH2, that's the video-centric camera. Yeah. Once I got my XT3 and used it a while, I kind of wished I had got the XH series anyway, because it has a bigger grip. Once I added the battery grip to the XT3, I enjoyed it because it gave me enough of a grip on the camera to feel my hand properly. But the XT3 without the battery grip was just too small. I just didn't enjoy shooting with it without the battery grip. And so I never used it without it, so it was never a real compact package for me. If you go back and watch any of my XT3 videos, you'll see it's always got the battery grip installed. I just never ran it without it. I actually charged the batteries in camera almost the whole time I had it, because you could USB charge the one in the body, and then the battery grip had two batteries, and you charge them with its own battery charger. So I just plug everything in and charge the camera up, and I never changed batteries. It worked out really well. With 3 batteries in that camera, you didn't have to fool with it. Ken says, I'm hoping for an SL2 monochrome at some point. I don't know if they'll do that. I really don't. The reason I say that is the SL series are like semi-pro cameras, and they're not for creative purposes, but for industrial or like they're for commercial use. They really are. They're kind of geared. I'm using mine for creative purposes, but that's actually operating outside the envelope of what an SL camera is really meant for. Their creative cameras are their M's, their Q's, the CL and TL family. Their crop sensor machines were for creative or, what have you. But the SLs and the S's they're pro cameras. They really are. They're meant for work. And I think that they won't ever make one that doesn't have color option, when you can just go into the camera settings and make it a monochrome camera if you want it to be monochrome. I think, honestly, that they won't do that. If they do, it'll surprise me. It'll greatly surprise me. It'd be an epic monster of a camera. The low light performance of those monochrome sensors, once they kill that Bayer sensor filter, makes them, 50,000 ISO looks like 6,400. I would be down for that. But man, it would be awesome. But I really don't think they'll do it. I think you'll see them in the M's and Q's. I think there'll be a Q3 monochrome for long, but because they have had a lot of success with monochrome sensors. They have sold a lot of monochrome cameras. I mean, you go to like a store Miami, they might have 2 new cameras in stock. Maybe 2. They don't have new cameras hardly ever. You order them. And it's not because they can't afford to put them on the shelf. They just can't get them. because there's in that much demand. They do a lot of secondhand market stuff because they can actually get them. It's interesting. You think Leica will release a SL2M? Yeah, that would be awesome. Got to say, the new Q3 looks like an almost perfect lifetime camera. Yeah, I like the flip out screen. I kind of wished this one had that, but I've went without it long enough now that I don't miss it anymore. It's kind of weird because, like, I had a D810 for probably 5 years. I had one for a long time, and you know, I just never had that little flippy screen deal. I bought the little mirror doohickey and all that crap and played with it some, but I never really worried on having a flip out screen. But at one point, I got I think it was the Z6 was the one, and of course the XT3. Once you get into that, you know, you start using it. It's kind of convenient to waist level shoot. I like to waist level shoot. And with the flip up screen, you can do that, and it works really well for that. And that Q3 has it. I don't know that I'm going to get one when I have a Q3, but yeah, that's a big perk, and that they was able to maintain the water resistant rating. And I found something else interesting, because they mark the water resistance on the camera. The SLs are IP54 rated, to where the Qs are IP52 rated. I don't really know the difference between 52 and 54, but I do know that as the higher the number goes, the better the water resistance. And like we buy digital calipers in the machine shop, and we won't buy them unless they're IP67 waterproof, because coolant gets on them. And if you've got cheap digital calipers that ain't waterproof, it'll ruin them when they get wet. So these, the calipers can be submerged and it won't kill them. Yeah, I kind of wish these had stronger weather resistances, but I can also see the difficulty in sealing all of these surfaces that well. It would be very, very difficult to do. It would drive the cost of the camera up probably double just to get it to that kind of rating. To get it to IP54 is kind of surprising to me. I don't know that Nikon puts an IP rating. If Ray is still here, look on your Z9 and see if it actually has an IP rating. I know they say they're weather resistant, but I wonder if they actually pick an ISO rating and put it on them. I'm curious. Ken says the SL series plus lenses are really much more affordable than M series. And that's true. It really is. Certainly would allow me to use the 3 telephoto lenses I have. Monochrome landscape pics are awesome. I'm in agreement. I really am. Thinking about it, it's almost like color sunset landscape photos have been overdone. And with monochrome, you get rid of the beautiful sky that overpowers the whole image, and you have to look at the whole image and take it in as all the elements combined to create it, instead of just having that beautiful golden sky or that rainbow colored sky where it goes from blue to orange or whatever. That's a really good point, Ken. I had never really put a lot of thought into that. If y'all haven't hit the like button yet, I'd appreciate a thumbs up too. Just throw that out there. We have went for 30 minutes on this live stream already. Man, that goes quick when you're having fun. I think they're about to have baseball games behind me. Look, see all these cars? There's a baseball field right there. Yeah, see, I'll give you the nickel tour. See the gazebo I'm sitting in? And then I'm pretty sure this building is a museum. And then, or this building is the museum. There's a museum here. I don't know which one is the museum, but it's marked. One of these buildings, though. I'm pretty sure it's this gray one here. But yeah, you can see down the street here. There's the road right there. Let's see. Uh-oh. Back up here. No IP rating for the Z9. I know it's weather resistant because me and you went and shot the other day and it didn't hurt it. Nikon promises it's just as safe from the elements as the D6. That's interesting. Ken says, I ordered a Q3 in Boston. Oh, you went to Leica Store Boston. Awesome. I am 44th on the list with the trade-in on the Q2. Really not too bad. I think the best pictures have been taken with the Q2 monochrome. Yeah, like I said, that I love the fact that, you know what I like about Leica? They're not afraid to do out-of-the-box things. They do things their own way. I really like that about them. When you look at their company, you know, it wasn't that they went out on a limb to make the monochrome. They were pretty confident it would sell because of all of the people taking M's and then converting the images. And they just looked at what the market was doing. It's like, let's just take the Bayer sensor, you know, the Bayer color filter off the sensor, and let's see what it looks like. And then they were like, oh boy, we got a lot more ISO range now because we're not having to kill a bunch of it with this sensor array, this color filter array. Hey, I bet this will sell. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're the only company that makes dedicated monochrome cameras in it at this point. You know, not even film cameras are dedicated monochrome. You can put color film in them. So this is literally the only game to do that. But they do. It's interesting to see that. I have yet to handle a monochrome machine myself in person, but I do know several people that have messed with them and love them. There's 44 people, or there was 44 when you signed up that ordered just from Leica Store Boston. Hassan agrees, says, yeah, I like Leica and Nikon's approach to doing things in their own time. Despite the YouTube hype of everything must be updated every year, if it's not, it is no good now. Yeah, that whole yearly, I'm gonna move my leg over. I'm turned into a corner here. If you've seen how I got this system rigged up, you'd laugh. There's my camera bag, and then my notebook, and then my Leatherman with the saw. Here, let me show you. See the Leatherman with the saw? That levels the camera so that it ain't sitting skewed. I have to set it on the saw and the notebook. And then I have to get the angle right so that I'm in the frame properly. But that's interesting. Yeah, I do. I like that too. And I've kind of noticed something else. Have you seen Sony dropping a bunch of cameras lately? They're releasing them now, but they've slowed way down on their releases, if you've noticed. You know, there for a while, it was like, okay, it's Tuesday morning, what's Sony releasing? But now, you know, they were literally dropping cameras every 3 or 4 months there for a couple of years. But now they're actually slowing way down. And I've noticed that with Sony, you're not seeing as fast of a release schedule as they used to have. Everybody has pulled back. Hassan says, I'll send you a link to the small tripod and mic that my wife uses for her videos. It is pretty simple setup and very inexpensive. This is working. I just kind of have to hunt a spot. I have parameters for setting up live streams in public places like this. One, I have to be in the shade because I don't want the harsh direct sun on me. Two, it has to be a spot relatively quiet and kind of by myself. Right now, there's really nobody around. I mean, the nearest person I see is about 125 yards that way. They're getting in their car to go somewhere. But yeah, all these houses are occupied by tenants. People rent them and live in them. But you know, there's cars coming and going. But I got, you know, people walk their dog on the sidewalk across the street. But I just want to kind of be by myself so that I'm not really bothering anybody per se. But yeah, and I don't want a lot, like I would prefer the background not to be this bright, but the phone's able to compensate for it. Normally I like the background to be in the shade as well. And if I can get those parameters, I like the live streaming location. Ken says, claim that up to ISO 1600 Q3 converted to black and white is same as Q2 monochrome. Wow. I wonder if they've got the algorithm written to where when you go to monochrome mode on the Q3, that it gives you the same looks that you get with the Q2 monochrome. Because, you know, that's where all the real magic in Leica is at. Because we all know that Panasonic makes most of their electronics for them. It's, like I said earlier, it's common knowledge. So the real magic comes from their algorithmic, you know, their software, their firmware, whatever you want to call it, you know, the software that drives the camera and how they process the images coming off of the sensor. You know, they have the Maestro processor, but I wonder if that Maestro processor just isn't a slightly reconfigured processor that the Lumix uses, or it's the same processor and, you know, it's how they manipulate the files through it. I don't know, but it's curious. I'm curious about that. Yeah, that would make it a hard. They can't make it as good as the monochrome simply because there's a color filter array, but they can make it like up to 1600. That's reasonable. That makes sense, especially for an iPhone setup. Yeah. Man, I haven't got a Q yet. I have kicked the idea around a couple times. I really enjoy what I've really enjoyed, honestly, is starting to empirically learn the functions of my camera. You know, I mean, I've held this thing up in frame so many times it's pathetic, but there's the two buttons on the top, there's the two buttons on the front. You got the wheel, and then this wheel is a button built in, and then there's a button in the center of the joystick. And I know, you know, without thinking, the top button here, that top button right there, there's two, there's one above the other. That one is my exposure compensation. The bottom one is zoom. This one is ISO. You know, of course, this one switches between video and stills, but I don't shoot video with this camera hardly anymore. I was live streaming with it a little bit, but now I'm not, but I haven't needed to reassign it. And then, of course, the function button over here, I don't remember what it does right now. I haven't used it in ages because it's in an odd spot for me. But yeah, I've gotten to where I enjoy this camera, and I haven't seen the desire for the Q yet to where I don't want to use this one, I guess is the point. You know, it is kind of big and bulky a little bit, but I've kind of gotten used to it, so it doesn't really bother me to use it. Martin, how you doing, Martin? Thank you for dropping by. Martin's awesome, y'all. If y'all haven't been to his channel yet, you're doing it wrong. Martin's a professional photographer, and he's very good at it, by the way. You really need to look up Martin Castaigne's channel and subscribe to it. Yeah, the dude is epically good, especially at portraiture, and creative portraiture is what I would call what you do. And it's some epic photography. Look at your streaming on UK time. Finally you have seen since and moved. Let's see here. It's what, about 1,500 in your world? 1,400, 1,500, somewhere in there. Hope you're well. Yes, sir. Thank you. I do love the simplicity, but good customization of Leica cameras. I will own a Leica camera one day, but for now, I'll enjoy my baby. Well, I'm going to tell you, that Lumix is not a bad machine at any stretch of the word. It's a wonderful camera. You are not being hobbled at all with that machine. Wonderful piece of equipment. We'll look you up, Martin, but just so you know, Americans are always right. Oh. Yep, 1,500, spot on. Oh, those bloody Yanks. If y'all haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up. I've got to throw that out there about every 10 minutes. Excuse me. So yeah, let's see. Try and remember, was there anything else I wanted to discuss today that was pertinent? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shooting in large groups. Oh, look here. Ken's wrote something before I get into my thing. For the SL2, the Q2 monochrome, anything you learn can be applied to the others. The Q2s are so light and versatile. Yeah. This is heavy. I'll give you that one. It's a heavy beast. I don't know what it weighs, but that's where its weight alone is sometimes the reasons I don't take it with me on trips. It's just heavy, and because of that. I've insured it, so I'm not worried about it getting lost or stolen or broken or something, but it's heavy. It just is, you know. Good point. What's his name? Cuban Rum down in Florida has a Q2, and I think a Q2 monochrome at this point. If he's in the chat, maybe he'll speak up, but he loves his Qs. He's using, he loves them both. And I have yet to link up with him and mess with him much. I piddled with his Q2, I believe it was, a little bit the first day we linked up and went and shot wildlife. He had it in the car, and I played with it a little bit. And it was a nice machine. Show us the Z8 and Z9. Don't pretend you don't have them. Z8 and Z9. Honestly, the price difference between an 8 and a 9 is so close or so minimal that if I was going to get the big Nikon body, which I just might do in the next year or so, will be the 9. I'll just go ahead and get the Z9. I mean, they're so close at this point that there's no real motivation for me to get the 8 over the 9. I like the battery grip. So if I got the 8, I'd buy the battery grip for it. And by the time I've done that, I've paid Z9 prices nearly. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense for me, because I love them with the grip on them, to get the 8 when the 9 is so close at this point. Do it now, Ray says. Hassan says, I would love an interchangeable lens Q type camera, but then that would probably cannibalize the M. The Q is a fixed lens M in my book. I mean, they may actually be different shapes or styles, but at the end of the day, when I see a Q, I see an M with a lens permanently attached. So, yeah. And honestly, I've been looking lately at M8s and M9s. If I was going to get an M, because you can get them cheaper, but you get them cool CCD sensors. The new people don't understand the color output from a CCD sensor. and how beautiful it was. M8s, Leica M8s had actual Kodak sensors in them. The Kodak sensor produced an image unlike any other. It has its own color profile, if you want to call it that. And you can get M8s. I mean, they're still $1,500, $2,000. You know, if you get beaters, you can get really nice mini ones. I think people collect them more than they shoot them. But if you get the M9, they had corrosion issues, and if you didn't get one with the sensor that was already replaced by Leica, there's third parties that do it now, by the way. It has to do with the sensor glass. It doesn't have to do with the sensor proper, apparently. It has to do with the glass. But yeah, you got to be careful about getting an M9. You might get one with a corroded sensor. But if you get one that Leica had their sensor replaced in, they're beautiful cameras. But they do. They have a very unique color profile. And like the M8's a 10 megapixel sensor. And 10 megapixels is plenty. It's shockingly good. Like, that's a lot of resolution. People think you got to have 60 megapixels now. Q3, I'm talking to you. But I think Leica did that for the whole frame lines croppage thing. And instead of actual just giving you a lot of megapixels, I think that was the point of that. And it's one up in the Q2 a little, you know, but 10 megapixels is a huge file, you know. 4K video is 8 megapixels. So it's a big image. It really is. It's a lot bigger than you realize until you actually start messing with the files. You know, they're huge files, or they're bigger than you realize. But oh, there's stuff going on here I haven't seen. Martin says, I'm doing it too. Didn't get on with the Z7. Yeah, I never got into the Z7 or the Z7 II. I did a Z6, and it's a wonderful camera, and I kind of wished I hadn't got rid of it, but I'm kind of glad I did at the same time. I just never really used it all that much. If I still had it, it would probably be a dedicated video camera. And I just wouldn't be using it for any of this. So it would be a very expensive video machine. At home, I got the Z50 set up in the office for video uses, and it just stays on that little mount unless I get it out to shoot wildlife photos. So it's, you know, but the Z7 never made sense for me when I had the SL2 already, and they're very similar resolution, so I just couldn't justify the expense of a Z7 or a Z7 II when I had the SL. And in shooting landscapes, the SL performs just exactly the same as the Z7. You know, your control environment, you have it locked on a tripod, everything is the same there. You know, the only difference is the color profiles that Leica and Nikon produce through their firmware. And once you take a raw file into Photoshop, it's actually putting your profile on it and not theirs. So, you know, unless you shoot JPEG, which I do. I shoot RAW too, but a lot of the times I'm using JPEGs. Most of my Instagram photos are JPEG stills that I've pulled out of the camera and then done light edits and uploaded straight to Instagram. I try to get it right in camera. I'm a minimal editor, so that's just the way I am. Let's see. Hassan says, still waiting for a DF style full frame from Nikon. That was speculated not long ago. What was it called? The ZFC with a full frame sensor. People were kicking that idea around, you know, and there were some Nikon rumors floating around about that. And dude, that would be glorious. I would like that. Oh, it's a dog. And he's like 100 yards that way. And he's just, I think he's treated a squirrel. His owner's got him on a leash. He's walking his dog, and the dog is just howling. I don't know if y'all can hear him or not. I'm pretty sure he's treated a squirrel, and he's just got that poor puppy tore up. Or it's me. But he's not being mean to it or anything. It's just the dog just stops in the road, wails, and then takes off. It's just funny. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a squirrel. Let's see. But yeah, I would like that. I would like that camera a lot. Trying to make a unique sensor, then no one cares. Yeah, that's true. He's talking about the CCD sensor from Kodak. Jacob says, got the M8, great camera, color with the IR cut filter, monochrome, also great for infrared. Nice. Jacob actually has one. SEC football forecast has joined the chat. If y'all don't know, that's Phil Thatch. He has another channel now. Y'all are to go over and subscribe if you're interested in college football. I'll give you that plug, Phil. Nice to see you here. My Z6 gets used for video more than anything else. Same as what I would be doing with it. Yeah, that's a good point. You've relegated yours to the video live stream / video segment. That's a good idea. I mean, it makes sense. Thanks for the plug. You're welcome, dude. Let's see. Full frame ZFC would be a ZF, most likely. Yeah, because ZFC, ZF crop. It kind of makes sense in the nomenclature. The puppy just went by. Look. The one in the lead was the one over there wailing at the squirrel. Let's see. Nikon CCD sensors are also great. The D200, the D80. I had some D200s. You can get those things for a song now. You can get nice D200s for like $175. Seriously, $175. A nice one. I bought two different ones. One had a problem, and I don't remember what it was, but it had something wrong with it. And it was, and I didn't like whatever it was that was giving me trouble. I didn't like that problem that it was generating. I don't remember what it was now. But the camera was so cheap, the guy just returned my money and said, don't worry about it, just keep the camera. I think I actually gave it to somebody because it didn't work. Whatever this one feature was that didn't work. I gave it to them and they used it for a long time. I think I gave it to my nephew. But, you know, it still shot photos. There's just something about it. I don't remember what it was now. Some little something didn't work right that I was wanting it to do. It might have been the screw drive focus. I don't remember, but it was cheap. It was so cheap. Like one of them was $100. One of them wasn't, but I think the good one I bought was $175. They were cheap. They were shockingly cheap. Hassan message retracted. He says, Bama. Yeah. Oh. Ray says, I shot a lot of autocross on the D200. Yeah. But the M8, you can get M8s fairly reasonable. If you want to dip your toe into Leica and not get too deep and be able to basically recover your expense, my suggestion would be to get an M8 and get a Voigtlander lens, a 35 or a 28 or a 50, whatever your preferred focal length, because the Voigtlander glass is a lot more economical than the Leica glass. And the M8s are a lot more economical than, say, M10s or M11s. And then those have already devaluated to the point they're stable. So you shoot with it a month or two and decide you don't like it, you can literally sell it for pretty much what you paid for it if you don't beat it up while you're using it. If you take good care of it, you can probably sell it for basically what you paid for it and not really have nothing in it. Because, like I said, they've already hit the floor on their devaluation to where if you bought an M11 and then decided in 2 months you didn't want it, you're going to take a hit like it's a new car. But, yeah, those cameras are old enough now. You could play that game and get out for basically zero. And, you know, that's why I was thinking about photoing with an M8. And, you know, I've got a Voigtlander 35 already that I could put on a Nocton and play with that a little bit. Like I said, if it ain't for me, put it back on eBay and sell it in 2 months. You know, Like I said, you cash out for what you paid for it. Still going to check the site out, though. Got to support our photo friends. There you go. Phil says, did you talk about the Nikon Z200 to 600 coming out soon? Maybe. Woo. Yeah, that's a lot of lens. Yeah, that will be, if I had to guess, that's going to be the new version of the 2 to 500 super zoom, but it's also going to be a little more expensive. If I had to guess, you'll probably see a $2,500 lens out of that, because the floor for decent glass has climbed in the new world. You know, we say Leicas are expensive, but they've just moved up in proportion to everything else. I mean, if you look at full frame Nikon cameras, I mean, that Z8 is going to be $4,000. Isn't it like 3,800 or 3,900? By the time you pay tax on that, it's going to be $4,000. So the whole thing has went up. So I expect that lens to probably hit the market at least $2,500, if not a little more. All the Z glass has been more expensive, even though a lot of it's got plastic in it now to save weight. It's kind of funny to me that, you know, they're building them more economically, but they're having to charge more for them. And I don't think it's because they want to charge more for them. I think it's because they're having to, because cost of manufacture has climbed. Ray says, yeah, but the Z9 was $1,000 less than the D6. That's because of manufacturing. I'm gonna speculate. The D6 had a complete mirror assembly. It had a complete pentaprism assembly, and it had also a shutter assembly. And on top of all that, it had a full separate focus sensor assembly in the side of the camera that your Z9 has none of. They took all of that manufacturing, all of that design, all of that engineering out, and just basically did away with it. Completely eliminated all of that. You took basically probably a good half of the manufacturing that they needed to do, because they have to align all that stuff. They don't just make the parts. They have to, you know, it's all tuned, for lack of a better term. And, you know, by eliminating all that, you eliminate a bunch of cost. They probably cut the cost to manufacture that camera in half, because that pentaprism is not an easy piece of glass to make. Ray says, it still surprised me, though. Figured they would keep the same price point for their flagship. And I see your point there, because you know that as every iteration of those D series flagship cameras come out, they improve the manufacturing process so that it was more cost effective to make them, but the price never really came down. You know, maybe they looked at what I just said, and they said, people are going to figure this out. They're going to say, why is this camera $6,000, $6,500 when half the stuff that was inside the D6 ain't here anymore? I'm just guessing here, but I wonder what the used market for a Z9 is right now. How much they cost on the secondhand market. But yeah, you make a good point. I was able to get the S5 II, the 20-60, the 51.8, the 92.8 for $2,700 on sale. And he says, heck of a deal. And that's Hassan. That's an incredible, yeah, dude. That's like you walk in the store, you walk out with all the hardware you need to take amazing photos in one stop. That's incredible. Short of some kind of super telephoto for wildlife. You know, that's the only thing you don't have in that list. But you could be a wedding photographer with this. Short of a 200, you need a 70 to 200 so you can get the you can get in the church house and not have to get too close to the front. But you've got the 90 for portraits, the 20 to 60 for lifestyle, the 50 1.8 for street. You got everything. Like I said, you could get a 200 millimeter prime and you could be a wedding photographer with that kit. That's incredible. Oh, thanks, Ray. They actually have a Z9 at KEH right now that's second-handed for $5,200. So you can get a Z9 for $5,200 right now. That's not bad. The Z8 with a battery grip is going to be mid 4,000s, you know, 45, 4,600. If I had to speculate, and once you throw some sales tax on that, yeah. Now, Phil says that he thinks the shutter removal is the biggest part of the price saving. The shutter assembly is a very complicated and fragile part to make. I mean, we've all looked at them. We see how fragile they are. You know, them carbon fiber for shutter blades and all that stuff, and how it has to be able to trip so fast. It's a very precise, fragile, and delicate part. Yeah, and getting it out of the camera probably saved them an amazing amount of cost. Yeah, I agree with you there. Hassan says, thinking of picking up the Sigma 1 to 400 for wildlife stuff. I'm going to call myself Phil Thatch Jr. You have to start a YouTube channel and, like, photograph the birds on your back porch if you're going to do that. Phil gets the most amazing photos from his porch. It blows my mind. Yeah, Hassan said it too. Phil and Heather take some awesome bird photos. They absolutely do. MVP has 10 Z9s. Wow, from $4,800 to $5,100. They have 10 of them. So yeah, you can get a Z9 for reasonable money. Well, we all know what I'm saying here, but considering it's a Z9, it's their flagship, and it's still current issue, if that's the right word. You know, they ain't got a Z9 II or a Z10 yet. So, you know, it's the best you can get from Nikon right now, and you can get them for as low as $4,800. That was probably banged up a little bit, but still, I mean, if you wanted one that you could take out in the wild and you know you're going to be rough with it, get one that's already banged up a little bit and save yourself a bunch of money. This ain't the camera. People keep going by and looking up here and wondering when I'm talking to a post. But my CL, I jokingly say there's a wear spot right here above where the lug is, because someone had a strap on it that they have the little key rings. You know, it's little tiny key rings that go in these, and where that key ring on the SL2, it's a wide deal where you could actually thread, like this could be threaded through it if you wanted to. But on the CL, it's just a little thing for a key ring. And that key ring had flipped back and forth, and it rubbed through the finish on the paint. And I jokingly called that my $1,000 scratch, because I bought mine second-handed from B&H Photo, and it was $1,000 cheaper than new because of that tiny little mark from where that key ring had been rubbing on it. That was it. The shutter count on the camera wasn't but like 2,500. Seriously, it was basically brand new, other than that little scuff. And it was on both sides. And you can see this one's got them too. I don't know if you can tell it in the phone footage, but there's a little scuff there. But I've used this camera and I wore the finish off the hot shoe, and there's a bunch of wear around it because I shoot with it. And I knew I was going to scratch it up. So I was like, dude, $1,000 scratch. So I bought it. You know? So yeah, if you're going to actually get out and use your cameras and get them dirty and shoot, you know, urbex, or, you know, go to the desert or the beach with it, get the one that's already been banged up some, and save yourself a bunch of money. Put that money towards your travel or a lens. Makes sense to me. Especially if you can get it for $4,800, dude. That's a steal for that camera. I mean, they're retailing at over $6,000, $5,900, something like that. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button yet, do that for me. Appreciate it. But yeah, there's been a lot of new stuff coming out lately. That 200 to 600 Nikkor, that they done that for wildlife photos. That's the whole point. Ray said I moved my wallet across the room. Yeah. What's that? That credit card number? 6412330. Memorized. Key it into the computer from memory. Phil's blushing. Oh, dude, you don't have to blush. Y'all's photos are that good, especially your wildlife photos. Dude, you guys, you're naturals. More, it's just that you've got that much experience now. But Heather has come out of the gate like at full gallop with her skills. It blows my mind how quickly she got as good as she did with her wildlife photos. It just blows my mind how good she can get photos. I mean, they're just amazing. They just are. It just, that just shows me that some people have like the natural talent for it. Same deal for lenses, except for the 24 to 90 Summa M1 SL2 lenses I have were bought used. No problem with any used stuff. Yeah, I bought the 24 to 90 second-handed. I bought my SL2 second-handed, and I don't remember what about it was made it so much less expensive. I think it had this shiny spot on the frame for the display. The display wasn't scratched, but I think there was the finish was wore a little right here, and it's silver now. You can see how it's shiny right there on that corner. It's just a spot where it rubs your clothes as you walk. It sticks up a little, but I saved a pretty good bit of money. I think I saved $2,000 off the price of the SL2 because of that. Because it just had a little finish wear, and it might have had 10,000 frames on it. So yeah, I'm not above buying second-handed at all. I don't think I've bought any of my Leica equipment new yet. There's no Leica store near me. The nearest one's in Miami, Florida. So I don't go to the Leica store, That's just kind of part of the game. All of my vintage Leica glass I bought off eBay. All them R-mount lenses. I got a ton of them things. I got my 135s in the bag. Let's see here. Phil, drop your link with all due respect to David if he does not mind. No, throw it in there, Phil. If it'll let you. I don't think I have a prohibition on you putting a link to your channel. Which you should be able to click on his name in the chat, and it should take you to his channel. Or just type in the name of his channel, SEC Football Forecast, and it should jump you straight to him. He just spun this channel up recently, so he hasn't really gotten a long way on it yet. When was she just shooting with an iPhone? I don't remember. That was very early. That was before, because Phil started letting her use one of his cameras, and then she got her own camera. Now she's upgraded to the Canon system with him. She's got her own birding rig. But yeah, even when she was shooting with a smartphone, her photos were really good. That's true. Hassan says, I would love to have the 24 to 90 to use on my S5. Got to start saving up for it. Yeah, I have one. When we link up, I'll bring it and you can play with it. So if you really want it, it's heavy. I'm just going to warn you. It on the SL2 is a very heavy rig. It works really well for event photography. It works really well for that. The focus mechanism is so heavy in the lens that it has 2 focus motors to drive it. Yeah, it's interesting. So if I had to guess, it's probably hard on batteries too. I don't know. I don't shoot it very often. I use it for things for church, and I'll get it out and play with it from time to time. Like if I'm doing a portrait shoot or something, I'll use it there because it's kind of convenient to be able to compose the image with the zoom. It's just convenient. Plus, it's got beautiful glass. I mean, it's a zoom lens with better rendition than a lot of primes from other companies. It really is. It beats the M primes. If you look at the MTF charts and all that jazz, it's better than them. It's kind of shocking how good it is, but it is kind of pricey. As long as I don't mind secondhand at all. Ray's got the statement says, everything is so light to me after shooting sports. Z9 with the 120 to 300 is my reference point. Yeah. Which, you're using the camera and you're wearing it all day, and you're in compromised positions where you'll be squatted down to get low angle shots a lot or something like that. And you'll start to feel the camera pretty quick. It'll make you, yeah. Sounded like a cat. Oh, sound like a cat. That was weird. I'm by myself. But that was weird. Woody, how you doing? Okay, the stream's closing. Now, but yeah, that's a good point. And that's another selling point for the Z9 is it is significantly lighter than the D6. By eliminating all of that mechanism, you eliminate weight. The camera it's an amazingly light camera. It really is. Yeah. Every time I'm hanging out with Ray and we're shooting, it makes me want one every single time. Ken says, except for vacation, I tend to mainly use the 24 to 90 on the SL2. Otherwise, the Q2s. For real punishment, try the 90 to 280. Woo! I want that lens mainly for my Sacred Harp singings I photograph. Currently I shoot it exclusively with a 105. I've got the 105 f2 DC Nikkor, the Nikon lens, and I have the adapter to adapt to my SL2, and it's a manual focus, manual aperture lens on the SL2. But I shoot at a very specific distance typically. I'll post up in one spot, and I'll do most of my photography from that one spot. So the focus doesn't have to I can just ride the focus, and I can maintain focus, and my hit rate is really high. I'm probably 90% hit rate with manual focus with that lens in those venues. And I really like the fact that it gives me, like, that f2 aperture is the right blend. It's shooting wide open with it is a good amount of light to keep my ISO down, but it's not so big like f1.4 would be that the focus depth is too thin. It's just it's just right. Even if I had the newer f1.4, I would still shoot it at f2 to deepen my depth of field to that point, just for that reason. And it works. So if I had that 90 to 280, I would use it in those venues, shooting it wide open, and I would lose a stop of light or two. I don't remember what the aperture would be there. I don't remember what the variable aperture on it is. But, I'd lose a stop or two of light, so I'd have to bump my ISO to compensate, because I'm already running the shutter speed as slow as I can stand it. But, I like that setup. I just like it. And that's where I would see myself using that 90 to 280 SL. It would be a wonderful lens for that, but yeah. Let's see. Monopod really helps. That's a good point. I have never used a monopod. I really need to invest in one and give it a shot. Ray says, I learned that maybe one softball game is about max for shooting that handheld. Really? Wow. If there's a double header, I break out the monopod. Oh, I get it now. Ray says, the eye detect speed and accuracy is leaps and bounds better than the Z6 II, which is so good that Ray called it cheating. When I'm on the double sling, the Z6 II just feels old and outdated. Now I see why you put your wallet across the room. You found out you could get another Z9 for 48, and you're like, I can sell that Z6 too for about, and you start mathing it out to where you can upgrade and have two identical cameras. Literally clone the settings to the second one. That way you actually have exact same button layout on both cameras without any variations. Phil's here. How you doing, Phil? Woody says, my new logo to put on a t-shirt, the stream closer. What was that TV show, The Closer? Yeah. But I really, yeah, as far as the 90-2A, the reason I haven't got one yet is that's the only venue I see myself really using it much. And because of that, it would sit on the shelf so much that I've been trying to downsize my kit instead of upsizing it to a kit that I let sit on a shelf. And I'm still downsizing, by the way. I still have a bunch of stuff to get rid of that I haven't. It's just kind of hard to do. I really like the lenses that are still sitting there. But yeah, when I can use that 105 and it gets me the result that I want, I tend to just grab it, and I'll just leave the adapter on it now. It's got an L mount lens cap on the adapter, and it stands on the shelf in my Leica kit. And that one knock-on lens amongst all the Leica lenses, because I love to use that 105 f2 DC. I typically don't run the defocus control any. I leave it on 0 and leave it at neutral. I have adjusted it to the 2 on the rear, but I have so much stuff, like when I'm shooting singings, I tend to have foreground elements that are actually out of focus as well. So I've got foreground and background elements. And because of that, I don't want, because it does weird things when you're on the wrong side of that defocus control. So because of that, I typically just leave it neutral. But the rendition of the glass is so good that I just love using it. Phil says, I switched to mobile. Now I get to like the stream again. There you go. Double dipping. Ray says, I'm still holding out for the Tamron to make the 35-250, 2-2.8 for Z-mount. Dude, you don't want much. Wow. If it was anything, it would probably be a 35-250, 2 to f4. Because to go all the way to 250 millimeters, you normally give up a couple of stops and not just one. But I could see them pulling that one off. If you was willing to go to f4 at 250 millimeters, I bet they could pull that off. That would be like the literal do-everything lens. Dude, I would like to have that in L mount just for travel photos. It would be like the perfect travel lens. Ah, Neville Cole's here. How you doing, Neville? Good to see you. Ken says 90-280 allows him to frame the picture that he wants rather than to do a lot of cropping. And I see that, and I completely understand your point. It's just that it's so big and bulky that if I was to like carry it out into the field, I would be posted up. You know, I move a lot, and for me, smaller lenses, you know, you see, smaller lenses are what I tend to gravitate towards rather than bigger ones. And I just zoom with my feet. And then, of course, there's times you can't do that. I mean, I get it. Literally, you can't walk into someone's personal property and onto their yard and frame up something that you're shooting from the street side. And that 90-280 would allow that to where I couldn't get the photo. You know, I completely understand, and that makes perfect sense. Sorry, 150, 35-150. Oh, okay. The 35-250 would be glorious. You would just, I think it would be an f4 lens. I didn't see my typo. But that's a good point, Ken. That's a really good point. Let's see here, I'm catching up. Woody says, I'm thinking hard about getting the Z8. Thinking all the people that had it tested will send them back and I can get a refurb. Now you're thinking. Now you're thinking. I've had great luck with refurbished stuff. Me too. My 70 to 200 that I no longer have was a refurbished lens. But now mine had a problem. The clutch for the manual focus was slipping. And, you could use autofocus, it worked perfectly. But the manual focus clutch slipped. I tried to adjust focus manually, and it wouldn't work right. I bought it from, remember who it was. I think it was B&H as a refurb lens. Pretty sure it was B&H. And, or Adorama. It was one of the two big ones in New York. I don't remember which one now. But I remember getting it, and it was Nikon refurbished. And yeah, I played with it for about a week and finally come to the conclusion that the focus clutch was slipping because you could turn it and it wouldn't move focus. So if you turned it real slow, if you turned it fast, it would move. But if you tried to fine tune focus, it just wouldn't work. So I emailed them. They emailed back, gave me an RMA. I sent them the lens. They literally rebuilt the lens, cleaned it, aligned it, basically did a CLA is what Leica people call it, clean, lubricated, aligned it, and replaced all the electronics, replaced the focus mechanism, the clutch in the focus mechanism, cleaned all the internals and everything. It was a new lens when I got it back. And they charged me $0. It was free. So Nikon's warranty service, for me, my experience with it was wonderful. They so stood behind their product. And that was a refurbed lens I sent them. But since I bought it through an authorized dealer as a Nikon refurb lens, I guess it carried factory warranty like it was a new lens. But they did. It worked perfectly after that. It was a wonderful piece of equipment. But I got to where I didn't use it. And see here, about a year ago, I sold it to one of the guys that was working for me at the time. Well, a bunch of you guys know him. Keith, now he works somewhere else. It was a great, we parted ways amicably. It wasn't a bad thing at all. We didn't have any trouble. He still shoots that lens, the D810 I sold him. He's still using it. I think I sold him my 200 to 500, if I remember right. He bought a bunch of gear from me. He's photographing kids sports for the parents. He's kind of got a side hustle going there, and he's been doing real estate photography. So Keith actually picked it up and ran with it. He even bought a D5. But yeah, several of you guys know him. But yeah, I sold him my 70 to 200 because I just wasn't using it. Ken says, I am wishing for an SL 70 to 200, hopefully lighter. They make one. Ain't that what the but it's not a European manufacturer. I think it's I don't remember where it's made. They come out with one. I was pretty sure of that. 70 to 200 f2.8. Google that. I'm pretty sure they did. I'm thinking about it, but I'm pretty sure it's not made in Wetzlar or Portugal. I'm pretty sure it's made in Asia. I just don't remember exactly where. Phil says, Canon just announced the RF28 f2.8 pancake. They got their street lens going. The Leica world would call that an Elmar. I'm pretty sure Elmar. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an Elmar. I don't remember for certain. It's either Elmar or Elmarit. I think it's Elmarit is the 2.8. They all have names. That's like the Nikon one. Nikon's had that for, a year or so now. You had the Nikon one when you had your ZFC, I'm pretty sure, didn't you, Phil? Sony says, Ray Sony, Don't know. Ray says, is there a reliable Sony E mount to L mount? The E2Z adapters get bad reviews. I was ready to buy the Tamron 35 to 150 and the adapter until I read the reviews on the adapter. I don't know. I don't know if anybody makes a Sony E to L. I'm thinking about that. Okay, Sony makes the A mount. That's the old Alpha. Okay, the E mounts are full frame new stuff, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I know that, who is it? It's not, is it Photo Deox? They make some pretty reliable adapters. The 2828 looks very interesting. No one does 28 anymore, just 35. Well, Nikon made that homage lens that looks like the 28 f2.8 from, you know, the AIS. They made that one for the ZFC that looks like the 28 from back then. It's got the same like layout and styling, except it's a modern equivalent. Lumix has a 70 to 200. Okay. No, just the 16 to 50 kit lens for my ZFC. Okay. I thought you got the 28. No, we bought them and they were out of stock. I remember that now. We all ordered them at once from, was it Bedford or Murphy Camera, and then they sent us all emails and told us how they were out of stock. I remember that now. Yeah, we all just jumped on the website on a stream. It's a Life Force helicopter. Erlanger Hospital has the helicopter emergency thing. Yeah, reviews of it are reasonable, but I'm concerned about sharpness comments. Yeah, well, it's not going to be a 90 to, you know, a 24 to 90, or a 90 to 280. I mean, it's not going to be in that caliber. It can't be. Yeah, from Murphy. Me, you, Ray, and Wolf. Yeah. I remember that now. And none of them came in. Yeah, we didn't get any of them. Sigma makes the MC11 for an E to L adapter. There you go. I wonder if it works. Which he's going to be putting it, well, he's talking about mounting it on my camera because he don't have any L mount cameras. All of his are Z mount. Oh, I see what you're trying to do now. You're trying to mount up the E mount lens to your Z. Yeah, now sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake. MC21. All right. But yeah, I'm thinking. I'm surprised that no one's come over here to ask me what I'm doing, because people walk by on the sidewalk from time to time and they'll look over here at me, but they'll never say anything. They just keep going. Most people are walking their dogs. The 35. Oh, now I'm getting it. You're saying I can get the E to L adapter and then run that 35 to 150 as a street lens. Okay, now I'm starting to track. And it'd be a great compliment to his 120 to 300 on a second body. Okay, yeah. Woody says, where are you streaming from? Okay, we'll do I'm using my phone today, and I am in a town called Fort Oglethorpe. I am about 10 or 15 miles south of Chattanooga in Georgia, and it's halfway or so to Lafayette, where I grew up. Lookout Mountain is over behind those trees that way, about probably 2 or 3 miles. It runs this way. But this is the old historic military base sector. These are all duplexes that they built back in the 40s to house officers. I was showing earlier, let me flip it around here. Let's see. Yeah, this house right here, you can see clearly how it's a duplex with a porch and it's divided, and you can see it's symmetrical. And if I turn it around, let me see, and get it here, see, this house is a exact copy of it. You can see it right there, yeah. And they're like that. Every once in a while, I want to be slightly different, but if you could see through the trees, you'd see a bunch of these houses are all carbon copied like it. And you can even kind of tell. Let me see. Let me get my finger in camera here. You can see how that one was. Whoops, it's focused on me. You can see how that one was at one point like this one, and they've modified it since then to have the wraparound porch. And you can see the roof on this one matches that styling. You know, they've changed them a little over the years, but for the most part. But you go about a half a mile that way and you get to the city part where it's Highway 27 passing through, and that's where all the like McDonald's and Long John Silver's and Kmart and the shoe stores and, you know, cell phone, all that junk. It's right over there. Well, yeah, where I'm at here is just kind of a quieter spot to do a stream from. There goes that Hemi Challenger. I don't know if y'all. She was really nice about it. She didn't gas on it and make it loud. Let's see. Have y'all got any questions for me today? Like I said, I'm probably going to mount the 50 back on it today. I've been running this 28 a lot here lately. Yeah. And I really like the lens. It's a really fun lens to use, and it's really sharp. It's a wonderful piece of glass. If you're ever wondering about getting into vintage glass, I can wholeheartedly, let me see if I can get this thing to show up to the camera here. I can wholeheartedly recommend, is it showing up backwards to you guys? It probably is. It says Asahi Optical Company, and over here it says Takumer. The Asahi Optical, Pentax Asahi, Honeywell. Honeywell made them for a while. There's a bunch of these that are they're all made basically by the same people. They just got bought out by different major corporations over the years. But these lenses are beautiful lenses, and they take stunning photos. Pentax made a K-mount later on, but these are all M42 thread mount. So you can get adapters, like this is a simple adapter I got from Amazon. It's a Photo-C M42 to Leica L mount. You can see it's threaded. You can kind of tell. You just screw the lens in it. And if the lens doesn't time to top dead center like it should, and this one's a little off, but it's not far, but it's got some little set screw holes. See that little tiny hole there? And there'll be one over here. Well, there it is right there. And then there'll be a third one, and there it is. Those have set screws in them, and then the mount will come with a little tiny Allen wrench, and you'll loosen those set screws, and that silver ring I showed you earlier on the inside will spin. And you just literally loosen those screws, and you just turn the lens till it's top dead center, tighten them back up. And then you've timed that mount to those threads to this camera, so your M42 lenses will time up to the top then. It's really nice. This one's close enough, I just didn't mess with it. I mean, it's right here. So I can see the data just fine, so I don't worry with this one. But yeah, that's a real nice feature. If you're running M42 or M39 thread mount lenses, you can do that real easy. But yeah, I really like the Pentax glass. I don't remember even who it was now that recommended using or getting some Pentax glass back in the day when I was doing a lot of vintage lenses, and I was doing a lot of Nikon glass, and someone said, have you tried Pentax glass? And I was like, no. So I went on eBay and searched for it and bought several of them over a period of a year and did reviews. There's review videos on my channel about them. And this 28 has come to be one of my favorites, and it's a f3.5 lens. It's a pretty small lens. I mean, the exit aperture on it is just tiny. Look at the exit glass. That's one of the reasons I like it. Look how small it is. It's just a little tiny thing. It's a 5-bladed aperture. You can see that now, a pentagon aperture. Look at that. But I have to clean my sensor now. There's no way it ain't got dust on it at this point. But let's see what we got here. Phil says, I enjoyed using mine last Sunday. Yeah, you got a great copy. Yours is beautiful. The only difference between Phil's lens and mine is he didn't get the lens cap. Mine came from a friend. She gave me a bunch of old lenses and cameras that she didn't use anymore. And there were several good lenses, and the lens hood was actually with the lens. I actually got the leather case that you house the lens, and it's got the leather case that you put the lens cap in. And I couldn't figure out what that second leather case was for, and someone pointed it out to me on one of the streams. That's the only reason I know it, is I had somebody help me figure that out. Tell finally made it to a live stream. How you doing, Tell? I'm glad to see you here. Let's see. David is an influencer. I bought that exact lens after watching a video of it. Now I'm an official influencer. I have influenced somebody. Oh. That's a good one. I am the exact opposite of an influencer. I have a couple of Takamura lenses, the 135 and the 250. You got the 250? Is it the mirror lens? You got the 250 f8 mirror lens? Is that what it is, Hassan? Going to look for the 28. Love the 135. Yeah. The 135 is a great lens. I don't have the 135 anymore. I think I had it for a while. I've got a bunch of like 50s or 55 and 58s. I got quite a few of them because when I was shooting the XT3, I really got into that 50 millimeter focal length. On that camera, I don't know why, I enjoyed that focal length on that camera a lot. I just did. It was I think it was because I was just getting started into like street and lifestyle-ish photography, and that, on a crop sensor camera, that kicks it out to like a 75 to 80 millimeter kind of field of view. So that put me a little further away from the subjects to start with and bought me a little bit of breathing room. It kind of reduced confrontations a little bit and made it a little easier to shoot. But I don't know. I just kind of like the way the lens compression looked on that camera with that focal length. I shot it a lot. I did. I really enjoyed it. Most of my 50 millimeter to 60 millimeter lens collection come from that period. And they were all bought to go on that camera. Matter of fact, I don't even have adapters to fit my L-mount stuff for some of them. I don't know if I've got the K-mount adapter right now or not. I don't know. I got it for the Fuji X to K. I have the 250 millimeter f4. Oh, okay. John Traverna made it. You're a thought leader. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. If y'all haven't hit the thumbs up button, do that for me right quick. Trying to get to 10. I've got 9 right now. It shows on the little display. Yeah, I did a review on the 250 millimeter mirror lens that I don't remember if it's a Sahi optical or if it was a Minolta lens. I'm pretty sure somebody did it. Thank you, whoever I got that one from just now. I got 10 thumbs up today. I'm happy. But I think that was a Minolta mirror lens I reviewed. You can search my lens reviews, and there'll be one that's a 250 millimeter mirror lens, or just search for mirror lens, and because I've only reviewed a couple of mirror lenses. You'll see it. It's actually a really rare lens, and a friend of mine bought it in an estate sale and didn't really know what she had to start with, and then upon doing some mild research, come to find out they're kind of valuable and hard to get. And I was fortunate enough to do a lens review with it before she sold it. And I didn't have the money at the time to buy it, so I didn't add it to my collection. I've gotten rid of all of my mirror lenses, I'm pretty sure, because my 500 millimeter phase Fresnel outperforms them. But yeah, I have been kicking around getting an M8 a little bit, just because I haven't shot with an M mount camera, mainly because I'm pretty sure you can't focus the diopter on them, and I can't get like I can't see without that real well. That's one of the reasons I like EVFs, is you can focus the diopter on the EVF, and you know, and you can make it to where you can see, like I can see to shoot without my glasses, because I typically don't look through my glasses, and mainly because the rubber eye cup gets skin oil on it, and then when you put it to your lens or your glasses to focus, it makes a big smudge and you can't see then. So what I wind up doing is I literally will look, I'll actually look over my lens and through the viewfinder without it, and that gets me to the point to where I need to be able to adjust the viewfinder to fit my eye without my glasses on. And I don't have much problem with distance viewing. The reason I wear glasses is because I can't see up close to read anymore. That's why I keep doing this. I'm looking through the readers. They're bifocal. Let's see. Yeah, you can kind of tell if I do that. You can see how it distorts. I just have the lineless bifocals, whatever they call that. And it allows me to be able to see to read. You know, I can see up close now. As you get older, your minimum focus distance gets further and further away, and it gets to the point where they jokingly say your arms are too short. Here comes some kids walking around the block. I guess is school out? It's Saturday, so who knows? I don't even know anymore. We'll ask them and see. Hey, y'all, is school done yet? Y'all are out of school for the summer now? All right, thank you. Sure. Not by itself. I haven't seen any dogs that weren't on a leash today. Not yet. If I see it, I'll yell, but I haven't seen one at all this morning. You're welcome. Okay, right there. All right. Sure thing. Yeah, I'll be glad to let you know. They're looking for their dog. It's wandered off. I haven't seen a loose rogue dog yet. Hassan says, Sigma Contemporary 1 series lenses are great modern versions of vintage lenses. Really? That's interesting. Huh. But yeah, they said the schools are out for the summer now. So in about a week, Tim Childers retires. He's been counting the days. Now they got me looking for their dog. They've linked up with their older brother, it looks like. And now they're on the other street, on the other side of the houses. The base housing has a front street, and then a back alley, apparently for like the service vehicles that like would do laundry or trash or whatever. So there's a street on literally both sides of the houses. It's kind of neat. Yeah, they're all available in L mount also. Yeah, I have had one Sigma lens my entire life that I can remember. I bought a 100 to 500 or 150 to 500. It was a big telephoto zoom lens, and I'll just be honest with you, the lens performance wasn't great. And since I had that bad experience with them, that was the reason I bought the 2 to 500 super zoom Nikkor. I took it to Hawaii to photograph surfers on the surf. I wanted to photograph them out in the surf from the beach, and it did. It just wasn't a good lens. It didn't work. The images, they just weren't good. They were like, I guess the right word would be muddy. It just didn't do as well as I was anticipating. And I bought that 2 to 500, went back the next year, and the photos were stunning. So it kind of cemented it for me. So I haven't bought a Sigma lens since. That's how quickly you can form an opinion about something, I guess. I just didn't want to take the time and trouble and cost to try again to see about risking it. Now, Tamron, I know several photographers that have a lot of Tamron glass. Excuse me. And it's wonderful glass. Aaron shoots almost exclusively Tamron glass, and his lenses and his photos are stunning. Ray uses a lot of Tamron glass, and it works well for him. That Gen 2 70-200 is an amazing lens from Tamron, and it's significantly cheaper than the Nikkor equivalent. Yeah, he's proven to me that Tamron makes wonderful equipment, especially newer stuff. Their new lenses are awesome. I have considered I've looked at them, but I haven't really talked myself into buying one. I guess I'd like to play with one first and just see what the image output looks like on it. Because I really would like the 28mm SL. I've really thought about wanting one of them. I haven't bought one, but I have wanted one. I've looked at them a couple times, but I'm shooting with this little manual one and I like it. But I thought about getting an M-mount lens, but the M-mount lenses are kind of, I don't know, they make a couple of variations of them. So I just haven't really looked hard. But that Voigtlander 35, the thing I like about M-mount lenses, I'm just gonna slow down a little bit here, is their size. They're so compact. Phil says I'm still counting the years. Oh, yeah. I feel your pain, brother. I was in the machine shop yesterday machining gears for a factory in Trenton, boring them to 9mm bores. They had to fit a 355 pin, 0.355 inch gauge pin had to slide freely, but the 0.357 pin could not go. I had a 2,000ths window I had to land in. I did 20 of them in about an hour and a half. Once I got the bore right to where I knew what the DRO had to measure, I could cut them pretty quickly. But yeah, yeah, I'm with you right there. Retirement's going to be so much fun. Let's see here. John Trevena says Tamron made a decent macro 90mm, and I think Tokina holds the record for Tokina and Nikon. I don't know about Canon's macro lenses. I don't know hardly anything about Canon's lenses, but I know Tokina made that, what was it, 105 macro for years. I haven't heard much about Tamron and their macro glass either, but the 200mm f4 micro Nikkor is like a legend in the macro space. Like people that photograph stamps, like stamp collectors or coin collectors, those guys all shoot the 200mm micro Nikkor because of its rendition, and it's like its lack of distortion, things like that. That seems to be the lens to have if you're a document photographer or what have you. I have one. I have a copy. Mine didn't come with all the accessories, I found out later. Like there's a lens hood and there's a storage bag. There's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't get with mine, but it still shoots good. Mine doesn't have, it has a common problem. The manual autofocus selector switch is a little plastic ring on the 200mm micro Nikkor, and that ring cracks and breaks pretty regularly. Apparently it's a pretty common failure, and mine's not broken. That's one thing I do like about mine. John Larson's in. How you doing, John? Thank you for stopping by. Nice to catch you live. Ah, yeah. The Tokina is stellar. Yeah, it's legendary in its world. All the Nikon people that I know that don't shoot postage stamps typically shoot that 105 Tokina. John says he's had 2 Tamron 90s and he loved them. Nice. I had the 60 millimeter micro Nikkor. It was a great. C2C's disciple has been here 3 times now. He's logged on and we're still doing a marathon. Good to see him. I'm gonna pull the plug at the 2-hour mark, y'all. That's another 10 minutes. Because I've got a few things I've got to get done today. But it's been so much fun, I just hated to pull the plug on it. I'm kind of surprised at how well the batteries held up. It wasn't fully charged when I started. In a marathon. But the 60 millimeter that I had the little 60 millimeter AFD lens on my D810. I used it as a general photography lens because it would allow you to shoot macros. Plus, it was a great general purpose lens as well, and it worked really well for that. It did. I like that lens. The angry photographers want to turn me on to that 60 millimeter. I went on a trip. We went on a sightseeing trip and started in New York City and then went all the way up to Maine and then hopped over the border to St. John, Canada, and then back. We come back to, I think, Bangor, Maine, and picked a flight up and flew home. But I shot that whole road trip with that 60 millimeter on the D810. Took beautiful photos of that trip. It was, I don't remember if I carried other lenses or not. I probably did, because at that time, I was a carry the kitchen sink guy. I carried everything, you know. But yeah, I haven't shot a lot of macro stuff lately, though. It's not been something that I've been real big into chasing. I did photograph flowers and then insects on flowers for a while, but since I'm not big into like doing focus stacks, then I just don't fool with it. Focus stacking, if you don't have Adobe products or a camera that'll do it in camera, it's kind of a pain. I tried it with, I've got a couple of programs that you can do it in, but it's not super easy. It's just, it's kind of a pain. It really is. You have to do layers and then you do selective erasing and you know, and they blend over and it works, but it's like, it's so clumsy that I just don't want to fool with it. But yeah, if you get, what was it, Photoshop, supposedly it's like a 2-click affair. You just drop all your images in as layers and then tell it to do focus stack and it's a done deal. It's supposed to be real easy in Photoshop. And then I think Phil says the new Canon cameras do it in camera. Like you can set it up for a burst and it'll do a burst of photos and focus stack them and then do the composite all in camera. If that's the case, that would be really nice. For product photography, that'd be the way to go. Instead of trying to shoot it like f/22 with a high megapixel sensor, you could just do the focus stack for product photography. That'd be really, you know, you run constant light. You don't have to worry about, you know, different exposures. So yeah, if I was doing product photography for a living, I would probably get a camera body that does focus stacking in camera. John says, I've got the most recent G2 version with vibration control and F mount. It works great on my F100. However, autofocus is a bit wonky on the Z5. Interesting. I think it's just the lens. My other Tamrons are fine on the Z5. That's interesting. The F100 is a film camera, isn't it? I think it is. There's a jet going over. But yeah, I haven't been buying lenses here lately. I've just been focusing more on shooting and trying to learn new things about shooting, because it seems like film. The Z5 has a fairly decent firmware update. Yeah, interesting. Thank you. C2C Disciple dropped that in there. I've noticed, even in this one stream, there has been about 5 or 6 brand names mentioned, and all of them have stellar equipment, from Panasonic Lumix to Leica to Nikon to Canon to Pentax. That's 6 brands right there that we've talked about. They all have stunning equipment now. If you haven't yet, like, picked a brand, pick a brand that has the ergonomics in the camera body that you enjoy. Like, this one feels good in my hand. I really enjoy how this camera feels. And its interaction, like everything about this particular camera body, I just like using. Just get you a camera body you enjoy taking photos with. Y'all should see George Nagata's camera. He's got a Nikon Z50 that he's literally wore the black finish off of down to the raw plastic. He's shot so much with that camera. That's what I love to see. A camera used so much that you have literally wore through the finish to the raw material beneath it. Like, it's wore heavily. I really should have took some good photos of it while he was down here. It was stunning. But yeah, get you a camera that you really, really like using. And the lenses that company makes, or third-party ones like Tamron and Tokina and Sigma, there's 3 more brands we've talked about. They all make really, really good equipment now, and you would be well served with all of that. You know, it's literally a point of personal preference at this point. If you haven't hit me a thumbs up, do it for me right quick. I've been asking about every 10 or 20 minutes throughout the stream. I wanted to get to 10, and I've somehow got 11. That's awesome. But Ken says, I spend my time trying to use the 3 lenses I have optimally. What a learning curve. That's true. It is. When you actually start spending time with your gear, using it more than just like, well, for lack of a better term, playing with it. You start actually using the gear is when you start to really, really get comfortable with it. And like, I finally learned the menu system on this one. Like, I can make changes to menu items quickly. It's not a big painful event if I want to go in and change something in the menu. It's pretty easy for me to find it now. Occasionally there'll be some exotic thing I want to alter, but most of the time, like, if I put in a manual lens, I know exactly where manual lens settings are. I can get to it really fast. You know, it's easy. And that's the way your camera should be. It should be intuitive to use. And you know, some camera companies make their menu systems, they're not real intuitive. But you honestly normally don't need most menu settings. You set them once and forget it. You'll come back to it when you like change something drastic. But there'll be a handful of menu items that you do need. And if you don't continuously change the model or brand, then you will learn where those are and you will actually get good at it. And it becomes more about actually taking photos than it is playing with new gear. Now, is there anything wrong with playing with new gear? Not at all. I mean, if that's what your hobby is, have fun. I mean, it's fun for me to get a new piece of equipment and to get it out and play with it. But it seems like here lately, it's gotten to be more fun to get out the gear I have and go do something new with that. I don't know why, but I've kind of shifted, I guess, because I've bought new gear so much over the last few years that I've kind of gotten tired of having to learn the new stuff. I guess, is that it? Like I was saying earlier, if I get another Nikon camera, or if I get another camera that's not Leica, it will be Nikon, because I already understand the Nikon menu structure. And I just don't want to have to learn the Canon menu structure or the Panasonic Lumix menu structure, or God help me, the Sony one. Sony cameras are amazing machines, but if I had to learn that Sony menu structure, Lord, I think I'd just quit photography. It's complicated. I had a Sony camera. If y'all go back in the channel, you'll see I had a Sony A7 II. And it was a great camera. It really was a great camera. It started to have sensor issues. The sensor stabilization would give me problems occasionally. I ain't going down that road. I don't want to talk about it. There's a video if you really want to know why I quit using that particular model. But the menus was one of the reasons. It was just, they were just too complicated. And I just had the one camera, and, you know, I was experimenting at the time. It's not a bad machine. I see Sony shooters that love them, and they do produce wonderful results. They are not bad cameras. They're just not for me. You know, that's the luxury of having, you know, access to almost a dozen different brands to choose from. You can find the one that is for you. That is a good thing. Let's see. John Larson says, love it, David. Great advice. That's how I chose Nikon. Yeah. Nikon is a wonderful brand. Canon is a great system. Phil has proven that. He switched to Canon and takes amazing photos with his Canon cameras. Phil wants autofocus, and the most cutting edge autofocus is what Phil likes to use. And for him, it made perfect sense to go to Canon because they have cutting edge autofocus technology that works. It just works. His hit rate is phenomenal. So it's, you know, he's shooting sports and he shoots wildlife, and that good autofocus system that Canon has, Canon, Sony, both of them have incredible autofocus systems that just work really well. Nikon is catching up. The Z9 has really, really, really good autofocus. Ray proves that with his. So, you know, if you need really strong autofocus, those are the three you're going to pick. Now, Leica's autofocus works pretty good. It's not on the same level as Canon's. That's a fair statement. Canon's is better. They're more technologically advanced with their autofocus. It's just a fact. But the Leica system works really well for me. I mean, I'm shooting a 50-year-old lens on it. I don't need good autofocus. My style of photography is different. It just is. Is it bad? Nope. It's just different. John says, all the Chinese and Korean third-party lenses plus Wilcox. I don't know what Wilcox is. I'll have to Google that. Now you got me wondering. Now, I do have some TT Artisans lenses, and I like them. I'll be honest with you. TT Artisans makes wonderful manual lenses. They're all full manual, but they're like the ones I'm shooting right now are crop sensor format, so they're small. TT Artisans makes stunning lenses for cheap. Like, they're crazy economical lenses. I bought that 35 f1.4 for my CL in L mount, so it's a direct fit lens without needing an adapter, and it was like $72 brand new. It takes beautiful photos. It's crazy how good it is for what you're paying. I don't know how they can make them that good. I really don't. It blows my mind. Let's see. Ken says it also took me time to stop worrying about hurting my equipment. Wear is now an indication of how much I'm using it. Good point. Me too. I babied this camera for a while, but I've started to notice my fingernail. Let's see if I can get the light to hit it so you can see it. See that little abrasion right there? That's where this finger rides on the camera, and the fingernail abrades it. That finger is long enough that it bottoms out against the body right there, and that fingernail, like if I don't keep it cut short enough, it has abraded the rubber coating. I don't care anymore. The edges have wear. You know, like I said, there's wear, and it's from where I've been shooting with it. Yeah. If it's not getting wear, you're not using it. I've never understood how guys will have these M's. The Leica M is that's their prestigious street repertoire, whatever. If y'all don't know what a Leica M is, then That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just imagine it's a rangefinder camera. It's their legacy. Anyway, they'll have these M's and they'll have them 2 or 3 years and they look brand new. How did they do that? How did they have that camera and actually use it and not produce any usage wear marks on it? I just don't get it. But you'll see them. They'll be like new. It's like, how did they do that? I guess they just didn't use it because it's like, I can't get mine out and walk across the room without scratching it. I've never understood that. C2C Disciple says, my 25-year-old son was eyeballing some of my film cameras and walked away with one of my favorites, a 1977 Mint Nikon EL2, and gave him a 20 millimeter, a 35-70, and an 80-200. Dude, he scored. That's a home run right there. That kit will take crazy good photos. Ken says, my Canon days were filled with endless menu and button searches like a zoological. I guess I'm kind of simple-minded is the best way to put it. For me, like I had my D810 for a long time, and for the longest time, I didn't know it had shutter delay. Aaron showed me it had shutter delay. For like landscape photography and stuff like that, shutter delay is really nice because it eliminates shutter shock, or it reduces it. And in DSLRs, if you were shooting at fairly slow shutter speeds, shutter shock would make your photos a little less sharp. You know, you could get a sharper photo that way. And for landscape, you want that. So I never knew it had shutter delay until he showed me, because I just didn't do menu diving. I'm the guy who wouldn't set up simple systems like Phil and Ray both have two different autofocus buttons for back button focus. One focuses with one system, one focuses with a different system. I would set up back button focus and pick a mode in the menu and just leave it there. You know, they know how to maximize the functions of the cameras to work for them. And I just don't do that for some reason. I'm not that smart, or I'm not that, I guess, tech savvy. It impresses me to see how people can actually manipulate the equipment in very advanced ways and make it look intuitive. It's really impressive. Oh. C2C says, someone once said it's better to give than receive. Those youngsters love the tactile mechanical feel and enjoy the process of taking photos. That's a good point. Hassan says, I'm starting to enjoy manual focusing. I have enjoyed it. The interaction with the camera, to me, is important. It's as important as the photo at this point for me. It's just part of my hobby is the interaction with the equipment, and being able to adjust aperture and focus the camera, and and the tactile feedback and all of that is just part of the game. C2C says, yeah, that's when I had to log off hearing Ray shoot off how great the Z9 is, and I had to throw my wallet across the room, even though the wife has the card numbers memorized. And there's 10 Z9s at MVP. The camera is annealing you to fit them. You have to understand metallurgy to know what annealing is. That's a good way to put it. Ken's got a good analogy there. Ken, C2C says, yeah, a car not being driven is a trailer queen. Yeah. In the gun community, they call them safe queens. They'll buy really nice firearms. They do them the same way as like a M shooters sometimes. They'll buy these really high-end handguns, and they'll have them for years and they'll look brand new. And it's like the only way to do that is to never shoot it, because if you shoot the guns, there's marks. If it's an auto loader, the gun reciprocating will scratch certain things, you know, and if there's not scratches on the barrel hood of an automatic, then it ain't been shot, you know. I guess they're buying them as investment tools at that point, or investment vehicles. Viltrox, my bad. Oh, not Wilcox, it's Viltrox. Okay, yeah, I get it. I haven't really looked at Viltrox much. I haven't looked at 7 Artisans because they're more expensive than TT Artisans, and TT Artisans lenses are really nice. There's no electronics, so you got to be able to handle that. But yeah, I have 3 TT Artisan lenses now. One they sent me as a review sample. That was the 35-095. That lens is stunning. At 095, it's almost impossible to get a good focused image. You have to try really hard, but it can be done. It's just not easy. But you stop it down to f1.4, f1.0, f1, 2. You stop it down just a little bit, the depth of field increases enough that you can get the eye in focus. But it's really tough at 0.95. But it does allow you to lower your ISO significantly at night. If you shoot like street photos at night, the 0.95 is super handy. But I have the 1.4 and the 17 millimeter f1.4. I bought both of those, and they're both stunning lenses. So now my kit typically runs out as the 17 f1.4, which is equivalent to like about a 28, 29 millimeter field of view, and the 35, which is equivalent to 50. So I have a 28 and a 50 essentially with my CL in that kit, and it's a nice compact tiny kit. It's kind of become some of my more travel friendly camera gear. C2C says, I have a hard time setting up my car radio. Hit the manual search. I'll set the clock on mine because I just get tired of it blinking or whatever. But yeah, I don't have memory saved in my radio. I rarely listen to the radio anyway. I plug in my phone and listen to YouTube videos like podcasting. Hassan says, I've been really enjoying using real-time LUTs on the S5 II. Been able to have a LUT loaded in camera with a few button pushes is awesome. Oh, that's kind of like modifying the in-camera settings. You can modify them in camera. Like you can go in and adjust, like if you set it to vivid color profile, you can go in and adjust those color profiles and tweak them a little bit. Looking for more LUTs now to upload onto my camera. That's pretty cool. All right. We've had a 1 hour and 32-minute live stream so far. So you guys have been wonderful. I really appreciate it. I've got to get off of here, though. I've got some errands to run before I go home. So it's been a lot of fun. I have really enjoyed this. So until next time, guys, you get your camera out and go take a picture with it, all right? So if y'all have any questions, be sure to shoot me an email at georgiaphotog@gmail.com. I have that open all the time, and I do read that inbox. I appreciate you guys logging in. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. If you haven't seen it yet, I have a channel on YouTube, which you're on right now, by the way. Subscribing to that would be really cool. I have started making videos more frequently again, so there'll be one coming out next Saturday. I've got one up there scheduled. I've got another one or two. I've actually got a few videos actually scheduled now. So, yeah. Hassan's asking when Phil's next stream is. So Phil, drop it in the chat. But maybe we'll see you guys on the flip side. So until next time, this is David, the Georgia photographer. And get your camera out and go take a picture with it, all right? We'll see you later. Bye-bye.